So, welcome back to School for You. My name is Sergio Braining, and today we're going to learn about keyframes. So, wait, what are keyframes? So, I'm going to make a short explanation about what are keyframes. So, keyframes are the things that control our animation. So, basically, if you've seen some old Disney movies, like Mickey Mouse, not the new ones, but the old ones that were done by hand, that were drawn by hand. So basically, they used frames, okay? So keyframes are like frames in this sense of controller animation. But the cool thing about keyframes is that you don't need to put a lot of them in the animation. That's why they're called keyframes. Keyframes, the essential frames of the animation. So, for example, if you want to move an object from point A to point B, you will need two keyframes. One in the beginning of the timeline and the other is in the end of the timeline. So wait, but like I said, keyframes are not exactly like frames. So what's the difference? So keyframes are the essential frames of an animation. Frames are a way of navigating in the timeline and knowing where we are. They like keyframes, but not all of them are essential. For example, we'll take the example that I took. It was the cube. It was the object that we moved from point A to point B. Okay, so for example, in frame 52, we have 100 frames, and in frame 52, it's not an essential frame, okay? We can solve that and not do like 100 frames. We can make, instead of that, two keyframes, one in the beginning in frame 0 and the other in frame 100. So keyframes, they save us a lot of time. So that's why they're better. But in the past, cartoons were created with frames because there were no computers. So animators had to draw each frame to create an animation. Basically, there were no computers, so you couldn't calculate all the frames, all the not essential keyframes. Not essential keyframes, they are called frames, okay? So in the past, the computers couldn't calculate this technology called keyframes. So you had to draw every frame by hand. Can you imagine how much time would it take? So that's a lot of time. So we invented keyframes, and they are used today in 2D animation, 3D animation. They're used everywhere because they save us a lot of time. So let's go to Cinema 4D and we'll see how they work. Here we are in Cinema 4D. And for that subject, for keyframes, we'll be creating this short little animation. And when we will be creating this, it's actually a good opportunity to learn voronoi fractures and things like factors and generators and mode graph. Those are really cool things. They are more for immediate kind of level, but that's really cool. And you can learn that in this tutorial. So today we'll be creating this little short animation, and I created it really fastly. I used only two keyframes. Look. So as you can see, this capsule or bullet, it comes with this imaginary wall, and it breaks it, okay, to pieces. Actually, there is about 500 pieces. This is the thing with voronoi fracture. I'll teach you about it in this lesson. That's a really cute and cool animation. You can show it to your friends. And basically, it can be used in a lot of action movies. For example, if a hero comes and breaks a wall. So that's a really cool thing. But the main reason this is cool, because I created this animation using only two keyframes, one in frame 90, one in frame 0. The first one was in frame 0, where the capsule was here, and the other was in frame 90. As you can see, we actually have this line in here. But let's create this, okay? Ourselves. So let's go to File and New Project. Okay. So I'll remind you, 3 for rotate, 2 for dolly, and 1 for moving yourself, your perspective in the viewport. I don't want to do more things because it will just take us more time. This lesson is going to be short. So let's long press on the object menu. Let's create a plane, a regular plane. There's currently nothing in here. And as you can see, so let's create this wall that we talked about. So let's just press 1 time on the object menu, and then let's create a little wall, okay? And like this maybe, and something like this, okay? So let's move it a little up in the y-axis. And we have this little wall, nothing impressive. And let's create our capsule / bullet. So let's just make it a little bit thinner, not that thin. And let's just move it, rotate it until like 90 degrees, about something like this. And nothing impressive, okay? This is just meant to be a showcase for keyframes. Just a little example. Okay, so we have this. If we'll press, nothing will happen. Okay? So, we want to create keyframes, but so in the last video where I teach the basics, I didn't talk about those two, okay? About those two buttons in the timeline, okay? So those two, this goes to the previous keyframe, and this goes to the next keyframe. If we'll press, nothing will happen, okay? We'll press this, nothing will happen. That's why because we don't have keyframes yet. So let's create some. So if we'll just press on our capsule, we'll see that we have those two little red buttons. We want to press on this, record active objects. Now it records our position, scale, rotation, and PLA of active objects. Active objects is what we just selected. This is our capsule, it's an active object. Which means that it won't record any mogre things or things like, or explosions or things like that. So don't, if you do some complicated things with animation, so don't press on this, because actually that leads us to the next thing. If you'll see, we have this a couple of sub-menus here. Okay, we have coordinates, which this is basically a complicated way of this. If we'll press on this, it will record like all of them. And if you're doing some animation and things like that, those can be really useful, because for example, explosions, you can record the strength of them, okay? If we go into object, we have those two, all of those. As you can see, in the coordinates, we have those circles. Those are also keyframes, okay? If we'll press on them, they also create keyframes, but I don't want to press on them right now. And we have, if we'll go to objects, we can record the radius as a keyframe, the height segments, cap segments, and things like that. So we can slice it and record it. Every button that you see in those submenus that has this circle means that you can record this as a keyframe, okay? So this is really cool. So we can make visible x-rays, things like that. It's really cool. You can play around with this. So you just click on it and it creates a keyframe. But today we'll focus on this button, okay? Let's go to object, and we want to record frame 0. So let's just press on the keyframe button, and it recorded our rotation, position, and scale of the capsule, okay? As you can see, we have this button, this little square thing, okay? rectangle here, this white rectangle. This is basically means that we have a keyframe. If we click on the wall, it disappears because it records only the position, rotation, and scale of this exact object, of this specific object. And now if we'll click on this button and go to the previous key, we want to frame 0 because we have a keyframe right there. But now what we want to do, we want to jump to frame 90, and we just want to take our capsule and make it go there. As you can see, we have this thing that tells us that we started. This is our starting position. And if we'll just press on this again, so that's it. We have an animation now, our first animation. Congratulations, everyone. Now, if we press play, nothing happens to the wall, and that leads us, it's not something part of keyframes, but I just wanted to teach you this for the fun. So if we press on this button, which is the MoGraph button, I think. Yes, it is. This is MoGraph. Basically, it's a really cool set of deformers, we can say, that makes it really easy to, for example, make things fracture or clone things, or make text and things like that. It's really cool. So if we'll just press on the voronoi fracture, so we have a voronoi fracture, but it's invisible, okay? It's not an object. We can't see it yet. But if we'll drag our cube and make it a child of the voronoi fracture, boom, the voronoi fracture colored our wall, okay, our cube. And if we'll press play, nothing happens, okay? It's just colorized. And what this color means is that this is how our wall will be divided, okay? This is how the parts that will fall when our wall will get reckoned. So if we want to make more points, we can go to source. Oh, and I forgot. As you can see, we have keyframes here too. You can play a lot with those things. It's really cool. You can create beautiful things. We have keyframes here. And if we'll go to sources in the submenu, and we'll click on the point generator, and we can see all of those points. Those points mean that those are the parts that are going to fall. This is how our wall is divided. So let's just increase that. Don't be shocked, to 500 points, okay? We now have 500 pieces, which are equally divided. And if we just don't want those, we can just go, and don't worry, it will disappear later. And we have 500 equally divided parts. That's really cool. But again, if we press play, nothing will happen, I'll guarantee you. If we want to make, we don't want this colorized, so we'll just go to object and uncheck this box. And now we can create a new material, for example, something like blue. I think I like this color. And boom. So now we have a colorized wall, but still it doesn't do anything. So what we want to do, we want to press on right click, and don't get confused, we don't want to press on the cube, we want to press on voronoi fracture because it's the parent of our cube, so that affects our cube too. So if we'll press right click, go to simulation tags, and click rigid body, so now it's pretty cool, okay? But still, it doesn't do anything because Cinema 4D doesn't know what our bullet is. So we'll just call our bullet simulation tag, right click, simulation tags, and we'll call it collider body, okay? So the difference, it's like for another lesson, but the difference between a rigid body and a collider body is that a collider body doesn't really have physics. It only affects the rigid body. but a rigid body does have physics, okay? And if it collides with a collider body, it can fall and do some things like whatever you assign it to do. So right now, if we'll press play, okay, something will happen. It will fall down because Cinema 4D doesn't really know what our plane is. So let's just go right click, simulation tags, and collider body. So if we'll press play, again, nothing will happen. It's not realistic, right? Our bullets haven't hit the wall. So what we want to do, we go to voronoi fracture, and we go to dynamics body, and this is only will happen if you already made voronoi fracture a rigid body. And what we want to do is the trigger, and it's also a keyframe, and add on collision. And now, if we did it all right, this will happen. Boom! Cool, right? So this little animation is just a test. It's not very impressive, not at all, but you can share it with your family. It's something really cool, and I really like it. So I hope you learned something about keyframes in this lesson. And I'm Serge Brannan from School for You. And until next time, bye.